separating Terumot and Ma'aserot for produce that is or was exported. I'll start with a story. Maybe I told it a few years ago. I was a Rosh Kollel of Torah Mitzion in Poland, in Warsaw. We left that 9 years ago. And one of the days, my wife did shopping in the market, Chala Mirovska, the big market next to our house. And one day she comes back smiling. And I asked her, Chava, what happened? And she said, look what I got. I got Israeli oranges. And she showed me the Jaffa oranges with the stickers on them. And, you know, finally we're here in Chutz La'aretz for months and months, and it's a winter, and finally I feel something of Eretz Israel. It's like I feel attached to Eretz Israel. And she was so happy, and she bought many, many oranges. In brackets, I'll say, at least in Poland, fruits and vegetables, every item was marked what country it comes from. Meaning you knew that the pineapples comes from Dechveis, I don't know, Spain, and the cucumbers from wherever, like each produce, fruits and vegetables, it was written big what country it comes from. So my wife brings the oranges, so happy, and I tell myself, oy vavoy. What do you mean, oy vavoy? You know, I was a young rabbi. If it comes from Israel, if we buy fruits and vegetables there, okay, no halachic problem, almost. No mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz, as we know. And, you know, we can buy, that was the easiest thing to buy fruits and vegetables. But fruit from Eretz Israel, just a minute. What about kilaim, grafting? What about Terumot and Ma'aserot? What about orla? And, you know, I had to start thinking and learning and investigating the different things. If it's Terumot and Ma'aserot, it's easier. You can separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. But if it's orla, you can't. So to make a long story short, maybe we'll talk about it at the end. But orla, I found that there's no halachic problem because what's exported is not orla. If we'll have time at the end, I'll explain why. And Terumot and Ma'aserot, what I learned then and what we're going to speak about today is that one should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from produce coming from Eretz Israel. And in a few minutes, we'll start to see the sources, why and where and when and according to whom. But that's the main psak, that one should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from what's exported. However, there are rabbis that are baking, and I felt it's a big problem because if I'll tell in my community in Poland, which was not such a strong community, if you buy produce from Eretz Israel, you have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, and you have to learn the whole text and to understand what to do. I knew that many of the people in the community would prefer not to buy produce from Eretz Israel because it's complicated. It's much easier to buy other things. And for me as a Zionist rabbi, that because of me, people won't buy things from Eretz Israel, I couldn't stand thinking about it. So I didn't talk about it in the community. Whoever asked me, I talked to him. You know, I explained. But I didn't talk about it in public, knowing because, again, the reason that I knew the community is not a strong community, you know, not a lot of, you know, Shomrei Shabbat, people 100%, that I'll tell them how to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot and they will do. And because of the discussion we'll see today, because of the safek, so I did not talk about it too much. And I knew whoever bought from Eretz Israel and didn't mafresh can rely on the opinions that allow it, the halachic opinions. That's what I did in Poland. And then when I came back to Israel and I became in charge of the English department of Mechon Torah Ve'aretz, which is this with mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz, I had a chance to learn the subject more and to deepen my understanding and to see other sources as well. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Any questions before we start? Okay. Just a Okay, so separating Terumot and Ma'aserot from produce. The Mishnah says fruit, but produce, when they say fruit, they mean produce. Can be vegetables, can be fruit, can be maybe even grain. But do you have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from exported produce? So the Mishnah in Chala says as follows: פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ חייבים בחלה. Fruit, produce of חוץ לארץ that came into Eretz Israel, you have to mafrish chala. Even though the wheat grew in Ukraine or in Russia, once it came into Eretz Israel, you have to separate chala from the Torah. Now, I'll say in brackets, we know today, Chazal say that we should do afrashat chala in chutz laaretz as well as a zecher. It's a zecher la mitzvah midirabanan. But from the Torah, chala is mitzvah tluya baaretz. Meaning mideoraita, chala is only in Eretz Israel. Midirabanan, even wheat grows in London, England, you have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. But here the Mishnah is talking about Roved Deoraita, meaning a produce that came, grain that came from Ukraine to Israel, Chayav Bechala, meaning, sounds like Mehatorah. Strange. Yatz'u mikan lesham, meaning came out from here there, meaning grain that left Israel was exported. You exported the wheat to somewhere else, to Chutz Laaretz. Rabbi Eliezer Mechayev Bechala, Rabbi Akiva poter. Now this is very interesting. What most poskim understand, that chala, the definition when you are chayav bechala is when what the halacha calls megalgelet haisa, meaning when you make flour, and more exact, once you add the water into the flour and make dough. That's the time that you're chayav bechala. You can't do afrashat chala before. But if you bring wheat from Chutz Laaretz to Eretz Israel and you add the water, you make the dough when you're in Eretz Israel, you're chayav bechala. And meaning the definition is not for chala where it grew, again, according to some opinions, but where did you mix it? Mix the water, make the dough, and if you made the dough in Eretz Israel, so you chayav v'chala, even if the grain was originally grown b'chutz laaretz. But the seifa of the Mishnah is interesting. Yatz'u mikan lesham, if it was exported, Rabbi Eliezer mechayev, Rabbi Akiva poter. So Rabbi Akiva poter, we can understand. Just like if it came from chutz laaretz to Eretz Israel, and here we made the dough, so it's chayav v'chala. So if we exported the grain and we made the dough in chutz laaretz, Rabbi Akiva says it's poter because the similarity on both sides. Rabbi Eliezer is interesting. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev, meaning according to Rabbi Eliezer, produce grain that came from chutz laaretz to Eretz Israel and you make the dough, you chayav b'chala. And if it was in Eretz Israel and it was exported and you make the dough in chutz laaretz, you chayav b'chala as well. That's Rabbi Eliezer. And that's a machloket tanaim, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Akiva. This is about chala. Is the halacha same or similar for Terumot and Ma'aserot? So the Sifri says, the Midrash halacha in Bamidbar, Asher ani mevi etchem shama, the psukim that talk about chala, that only when we come to Eretz Israel we're chayav v'chayav. Mikan ata omer, perot chutz laaretz שנכנסו לארץ, חייבים בחלה, ובמעשר. יצאו מכאן לשם, רבי אליעזר מחייב ורבי עקיבא פוטר. So the Sifri has a girsa that it's not only chala, it's chala and maaser. The Gra erases it, he thinks only chala, like the Mishnah, but many Achonim say no, the original girsa was including uve maaser. Meaning, if you include this girsa, so our Mishnah doesn't talk only about chala, but it talks about Terumot and Ma'aserot as well. Now let's think, well, what does it mean? So according to the girsa that we have Terumot and Ma'aserot, so we have produce from Chutz Laaretz that came to Eretz Israel, you have to mafrish Terumot and Ma'aserot. Why? If you have fruit exported from the States here, you have to mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot from them. It's against everything that we know, everything that we heard about. That it defined, meaning we're always used to the opinion that depends where it grew. If it grew in Eretz Israel, that mitzvah, what mitzvah that Liot Baaretz? Mitzvah Liot Baaretz is not where we are, is where the produce grew. If it grew in Eretz Israel, so it's chayav. If it grew in Chutz La'aretz, patur. But according to the Sifrim, maybe not. Because that's what they say, לכאורה. פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ, חייבים במעשר. And יצאו מכאן לשם, Rabbi Eliezer Michal Rabbi Akiva Poter, which this is our question. Meaning, if we have fruit that grew in Eretz Yisrael and we export them, so Rabbi Eliezer Mechayev, meaning they're still chayav b'Terumot and Ma'aserot, but Rabbi Akiva Poter. So according to Rabbi Akiva, if you export produce and you buy it in England, you buy Israeli oranges in Poland, in Europe, you're patur from Terumot and Ma'aserot. So that's the first stage. The Yerushalmi, as we know, there's no Bavli on Seder Zeraim. It's only Yerushalmi. And the Yerushalmi, again, it's known, it's very difficult to study Yerushalmi. Whoever started, it's very difficult. There's many more girsaot. It's not so clear when does it end, what the meaning is. The Bavli is difficult as well, but the Yerushalmi even much more. There's not as many Perushim. Today we have as well, Shutenstein, etc., Baruch Hashem, and Perushim, but not as many as the Bavli. But the Yerushalmi says as follows. Yerushalmi Chala Bet Aleph, יצאו מכאן לשם, supposed to be, Rabbi Eliezer Michal ורבי עקיבא פוטר. אמר רבי אליעזר מן אתרי, ורבי עקיבא מן אתרי. Each one learns min atrei, min mekomo, meaning from the pasuk. Rabbi Eliezer min atrei, mai tama de Rabbi Eliezer, min Rabbi Eliezer, lechem haaretz, bechol makom shehu. Rabbi Eliezer, okay, Rabbi Akiva min atrei, ma tama de Rabbi Akiva, el haaretz אשר אני מביא אתכם שמה, שמה אתם חייבים, ואין אתם חייבים בחוץ לארץ. So Rabbi Eliezer says as follows, lechem haaretz, that's a pasuk, bechol makom shehu. Meaning if the lechem is me'aretz, the grain is from Eretz Israel, or according to some opinions, the fruits and vegetables are from Eretz Israel, even though they went to different places, b'chol makom she'u, still you chayav b'chala and Terumot and Ma'aserot. Rabbi Akiva says, no, el haaretz asher ani מביא אתכם שמה, שמה אתם חייבים, ואין אתם חייבים חוץ לארץ. Meaning, if you are in חוץ לארץ, you're patur from chala and Terumot and Ma'aserot, even though it grew in Eretz Israel. What is the machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva? So Rav Shaul Israeli Zatzal wrote a long article about it. Rav Shaul Israeli was the rabbi of Kfar HaRoeh, which was an agricultural settlement next to Chadera, Netanya, and he was a specialist in mitzvot Liot Baaretz. He was mamash a mumche. Afterwards, he became the Moetzet HaRabbanut HaRashit, and afterwards Rosh Yeshivat Merkaz Harav. And but when he was in Kibbutz Kfar HaRoeh, he was mamash ambaki, and he wrote a lot about mitzvot Liot Baaretz. There are many stories about him. That every question he had in mitzvot Liot Baaretz, which was a big question, he never paskened in the Beit Midrash. He said, I need to go to the field and to see it. A, to understand the metziut, the reality, and B, to see the farmers, and to understand, if I tell them yes, no, sometimes it's thousands and hundreds of thousands of shekels lost, and I need to see it to fully understand the situation, and they need to see that I came and saw the situation. There's a famous story about Rav Amital, similar story that there was a story in Rosh Tzurim, something about the lulim, the chickens, the electricity, the winter the electricity fell. The question was, can you turn on the electricity, which is Chilul Shabbat, in order it wasn't a pikuach nefesh, it was only for the chickens, for hefsed. And he said, they came from Rosh Tzurim to Alon Shvut. He said, I can't answer here. He took boots, coats, and went there. And then, according to what I remember the story, so he says, no, you're not allowed. And, they lost a lot of money. And the students asked them, well, what did you see there that they didn't tell you here the Lord Shmut? He said, I knew it's Asur, but I had to go see it. Because if I say it's Asur, I have to go see it before. So that's Rav Shaul Israeli, who wrote a lot about it. And he writes this. מחלוקת רבי אלעזר ורבי עקיבא, מה הגורם המחייב פוטר בתרומות מעשר? According to רבי אליעזר, מקום הגידול הוא הקובע. The place that you grew it, that's the place which is קובע. That's why פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ פטורים. What about the reisha of the Mishnah? The beginning of the Mishnah says פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ חייבים בחלה. So he said, no, the Yerushalmi says that's only Rabbi Meir. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ, פטור. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's when we grow, what we always thought. If it's in Eretz Israel, if it's in חוץ לארץ and was imported to Israel, so פטור from חלה and תרומות ומעשרות. If it was in Eretz Israel, it was exported, it's חייב בתרומות ומעשרות. It's true that not the Mishnah, but the Mishnah, the Reisha is only Rabbi Meir, and we're paskening like Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbi Akiva says no. Mekom ha'achila kovea, the place where we eat, that's what's important. If perot chutz la'aretz shenichnasu la'aretz chayavim b'chila because we ate them here, and if it was here and went there, then it's patur. That's Rabbi Akiva, and we know that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva halacha ki Rabbi Akiva, halacha ki Rabbi Akiva mechaverav. So according to this, till now we see that if halacha is like Rabbi Akiva, so when we have exported produce, so it's patur mitrumot u'ma'aserot, and we have imported produce that it's in Eretz Yisrael, you're chayav betrumot u'ma'aserot. But we have something that is called miruach. And you know what? Before that, let's see the Rambam. Just can you see the Rambam? I went down just to make sure you can see it. David, can you see the Rambam?
Well, we can see the Rambam.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
So
but you can speak a little more slowly.
I will try. Thank you. The Rambam paskins as follows. Rambam Terumot Aleph Kaf Bet. פירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו לחוץ לארץ. Produce from Eretz Israel that were exported. פטורים מן החלה, ומן התרומות, ומן המעשרות. שנאמר, אשר אני מביא אתכם שמה, שמה אתם חייבים בחוץ לארץ פטורים. ואם יצאו לסוריה, חייבים בדבריהם. סוריה is ספק ארץ ישראל, or maybe חייב בתרומות ומעשרות according to מדרבנן. So if it's Syria, so חייב בדבריהם, because it's Syria is similar to ארץ ישראל. וכן פירות חוצה לארץ שנכנסו לארץ, imported produce, חייבים בחלה, שנאמר שמה אתם חייבים בין בפירות הארץ, בין בפירות חוצה לארץ. ואם נקבעו למעשר ביד ישראל אחר שנכנסו לארץ, חייבים במעשרות מדבריהם. So this Rambam is a bit complicated, but let's start slowly. First of all, פירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו חוצה לארץ, exported, the Rambam includes חלה, תרומות ומעשרות together. meaning you're פטור. Why? שנאמר, אשר אני מביא אתכם שם אתם חייבים בחול פטורים. Meaning, he goes according to Rabbi Akiva. The drasha of Rabbi Akiva, אלא אשר אני מביא אתכם שם, so the Rambam paskins like Rabbi Akiva. That's the first thing. What is he paskins like Rabbi Akiva? The Seifa, the end of the Mishnah, that says that about exported produce. That's one thing. And the second thing, as we explained, he goes according to the Girsa of the Sifri that takes Chala and Terumot Ma'aserot together. So that's the Reisha. However, the Seifa of the Rambam is a bit funny. וכן פירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ חייבים בחלה, שנאמר שם אתם חייבים בין פירות הארץ בין פירות חוץ לארץ. So that's according to the pshat of the Mishnah of Rabbi Meir, that's חייב בחלה. What about Terumot and Ma'aserot? So, אם נקבעו למעשר ביד ישראל אחר שנכנסו לארץ, חייבים לעשות מדבר. Here there's some sort of condition. He doesn't say, it's חייב בחלב ובמעשרות. He says, only if there was קביעות מעשר, which we will explain in a minute, what does it mean? Only then it's חייב לעשות מדבריהם, מדרבנן. Meaning, מדאורייתא, imported fruit, it's פטור. And imported challah is chayav. So the Rambam here differentiates between challah and masrot for imported, and he says, but for export, he says the psak is the same. Now there are other sources for the Rambam, other Tanaim. I don't want to get into it, but before we deal into the Rambam, we have to explain that the Rambam in Mitzvot Tliot Ba'aretz is what we know the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch in many things, he just brings the Rambam and he just brings him and no addition. Here as well, the Tur, the Bet Yosef, Shulchan Aruch just brings the Rambam, and even in places that the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring the Rambam, because it's places that let's say halacha, there's no halacha lemaisa or things like that. So the Rambam is the main opinion. Meaning, so the Rambam here and the Shulchan Aruch are exactly the same words. This is a psak. Paskin is like Rabbi Akiva. And for exported, he said, patur b'Terumot and Ma'aserot. And for imported, he says, challah chayav. Terumot and Ma'aserot, miderabanan, kviut lema'aser chayav. Now, before we go into Kviyut L'Maaseh, I want to explain what does it mean Kviyut L'Maaseh. We know when we have, let's say in Eretz Israel, when we have produce in Eretz Israel, it's Chayav Terumot Ma'aserot only after it brings a third of its growth. Meaning, if theoretically you pick it before a third of the growth, what's called Onat Ma'aserot or Ra'ui L'Ma'achal Al Yidei Adchak, it's not considered proper fruit. And there's no obligation of Terumot and Ma'aserot. Meaning, I don't know, if there are fruit that are very small, before a third of the growth, and you harvest them, I don't know, to make medicine from them, or something like that. So there's no need for separation of Terumot and Ma'aserot. Even after you pick them, they're not considered tevel until there was miruach. Miruach, נתמרחו על ידי ישראל is קביעות למעשה, whatever, is something that it's the end of the fruit or vegetable, the work on it, that it's that we can consume it. Meaning, you have things that you can't sell, you can't eat as is, but you have to do something. Let's say when you have wheat, so you have to take the grains out from the stalk. Until you don't take the grain out, it's still not edible. So that's the miruach, that's the kviyut l'maaser. Meaning, before that time, it's not tevel yet. And that's miruach.
Nice breeze through here.
Mm-hmm. Now, just a second. Now, there's a discussion about the miruach here. Where was the miruach? Meaning, because we see it as significant that the produce doesn't become tevel before miruach. So, what happens if the miruach is in Chutz La'aretz or in Eretz Israel? And this will be the big discussion we will see in Da'at Rambam. Meaning, the Rambam says, אם נקבעו למעשר ביד ישראל אחר שנכנסו לארץ, חייבים מעשות מדבריהם. Meaning, it's produce from חוץ לארץ, but the קביעות למעשר, the miruach was only in Eretz Israel. So a significant part of this produce and the way that it can be eaten, and significant part for Terumot and Ma'aserot, the miruach was made in Eretz Israel. So if it was made in Eretz Israel, the Rambam says, Chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot midivrehem miderabanan. Another application of miruach is Perot Goyim. We know that produce that grew in Eretz Israel by non-Jews is Patur Terumot and Ma'aserot. Meaning, if I bought from an Arab grapes and I'm eating them, so I'm Patur Terumot and Ma'aserot because it was grown by an Arab. However, the Mekorot gives us, I didn't bring it now because it's not our main subject. If the miruach was by a Jew, it's chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot mid'Rabbanan. The example that poskim bring are grapes. If you buy grapes from an Arab and you make grape juice from them or wine, so the miruach is only when you crush the grapes. Same for olive oil. If you buy olives from a non-Jew that grew by a non-Jew, he picked them and he sent it to you, and you made from it olive oil. You're chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot after you crush them. Why? Because the miruach is then. It's not when you pick them, because if it's bad for juice, for liquid, for grape juice, for olive oil, the miruach is only when you crush them. That's why you chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot. Another application is if you go to a non-Jew's field and you, the Jew, pick the produce. Meaning, it grew in a land of a non-Jew, and a non-Jew is Patur Terumot and Ma'aserot, but you, the Jew, you picked it and put it in the box, so the miruach was by a Jew. So you chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot. Even though it grew in a land of a non-Jew. If you buy from an Arab that he picked it, he grew it, and he picked it, put it in the box, and he's selling it to you, so it's Patur Terumot and Ma'aserot. But if you, the Jew, picked it, so chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot. Why am I saying this example? Because of heter mechira. Many people don't know that produce that grew on Shemitah according to heter mechira, of course, for the people that approve of heter mechira, if the Jew picked them, meaning he was the one to harvest the produce, so you chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot, at least misafek, mid'Rabbanan, but you chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot. Why? Because of this, the miruach, the gmar melacha. The miruach, the gmar melacha was by a Jew, so even though it grew by a non-Jew, it's chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot. Of course, when we buy in a place with a hechsher, hechsher rabbanut, so it says, kasher rabbanut el pi heter mechira. It means that they separated Terumot and Ma'aserot. The mashgiach made sure to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. But people don't know that if they buy heter mechira with no kashrut certificate, so there's a problem of Terumot and Ma'aserot. Or if you go to harvest somewhere, you go cherry picking, or you go somewhere else, and you do picking and taking it home, the produce that you picked in a land sold through heter mechira, so you have it Terumot and Ma'aserot, misafek, without a blessing, but you have it Terumot and Ma'aserot because of this issue, because of miruach gmar melacha that was done by a Jew, even though it grew by a non-Jew. So a similar aspect the Rambam says here is chutz la'aretz ba'aretz. Just like produce that grew in Israel by a non-Jew is like produce that grew in chutz la'aretz, which are both patur. But just like in Israel, if the gmar melacha, the kviyut lemaaser, the miruach was by a Jew, by somebody who was chayav, so you chayav mid'Rabbanan b'ma'aserot. Similar, if the produce the Rambam says was brought to Eretz Israel after it was, and the kviyut lemaaser was here in Eretz Israel, you chayav b'ma'aserot mid'Rabbanan. That's the Rambam, and that's what he says.
Question.
Yes.
So, well, two things. If you went to a goy and you picked the fruit, that's heter mechira. Would it be considered shvit?
No. Because kedushat shvit is when it becomes when it grows, but Terumot and Ma'aserot also is considered to gmar melacha, meaning it won't be kedushat shvit, but you would have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot.
All right, and I don't really fully understand this concept of miruach. Can you explain that again, exactly what that means?
Yes, meruach. The example that is usually brought is when you have the wheat and when you harvest it, it's not properly ready. When is it ready? Miruach hakri bagoren. When you brought it to the goren, forgot the name, the barn, when you put it in, and when you, sorry?
Silo.
Thank you. And when it's all ready there, it's put there, miruach, meaning you made it flat, let's say. Now you finished. Now it's finished. Now it's ready. Meaning, if before it's ready, meaning the time when you did it, that's what's important for Terumot and Ma'aserot. Before that, it's not tevel. You can eat it without separating Terumot and Ma'aserot, because it's like, going to the field and gnashing one. It's not properly ready. Only after the miruach, the gmar melacha, what somebody else said, tipul sofi b'perot, when you end up taking care of the fruit, and now it's ready to be sent, to be shipped, to be sold. So we thought that once, what defines for Terumot and Ma'aserot? When it grows. But now we see that even after it grows, after it was picked, there's still something that is still, you have to ask, wait, if this, the miruach, the last point of making it edible, if this was made by a Jew and not by a non-Jew, or if this was made in Eretz Yisrael and not in Chutz La'aretz, this kriyut lemasot, so midirabanan at least it's chayav. Harold, was this a bit better?
Yeah, but the example of the olive or the grape that was grown on the field of a non-Jew,
yes,
and that was made into wine or grape juice. I mean, the grape is still edible, isn't it?
Okay. So let's say it was grown in order to make it wine. Okay, let's just say that he grew it for wine, and you bought it as a grape, and you made it for wine. But it was grown in order to make from it wine. That's what it was made for.
Okay.
Okay. And let's keep on. Let's see. Okay, so we explained the data Rambam, and let's go to the Ravid. פירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו לחוץ לארץ וכולי, אמר אברהם, ולי נראה, שלא נחלקו רבי אליעזר ורבי עקיבא בזה, אלא בחיוב תורה ובפטור תורה. ורבי אליעזר אז ילבטר גמר פרי, ורבי עקיבא אז ילבטר מקום קביעות למעשר, דהיינו ברוח. The Ravid says, I think that the machloket of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva with exported fruit is only from the Torah. Do you chayav me'atorah or patur? Meaning what Rabbi Eliezer said, that if it was exported, it's chayav, and Rabbi Akiva said it's patur, it's only mideoraita. That Rabbi Akiva goes according to gmar pri, the end of it, and Rabbi Akiva goes according to kviyut lemaaser. Aval, that's what's important, miderabanan, miha, אף על פי שיצאו חוץ לארץ ונמרחו שם, חייבים מדרבנן. From the Torah, the Ravid says that's a machloket, and maybe we go according to Rabbi Akiva. But miderabanan, if the miruach was bechutz laaretz, so we are chayav. It is miderabanan. דלא גרים מפירות שנער ומצרים ועמון ומואב, let's skip it. ועוד שלא יאמרו, ראינו פירות הארץ שנחלים בטבלם. That people won't say it's some sort of gzira. That people won't say, we saw that Israeli produce is eaten without Terumot and Ma'aserot when it's still tevel. ומי שאינו מודה בזה טועה. So the Ravid says, if the miruach was bechutz la'aretz, מהתורה, we go according to Rabbi Akiva. מהתורה, if the miruach was here in Israel, we are chayav. מדרבנן, if the miruach was in chutz la'aretz, שם חייבים מדרבנן. That's what the Ravid says. Let's keep on. So this is the Ravid. But let's say the Ravid is on the side. What happens to the Rambam? The Rambam said, now I want to focus about exported produce. Exported produce, according to the Rambam, he said patur. What happens if the miruach was in Eretz Israel? If the miruach was in Eretz Israel, still the Rambam said it's patur me'afrashat Terumot and Ma'aserot. The Rambam didn't discuss miruach, kviyut lema'aser, the exported. He talked only about imported. But we have three opinions in the Achronim. What happens if the Rambam was miruach in Eretz Israel? Why is it very important? Because today, usually when you export it, it's after miruach, meaning you did whatever you need to do. I don't know, you have apples, you need to clean them, you need to put them in boxes, whatever. It's all made in Eretz Israel. And then they export the produce, the fruits, the vegetables. So today, the miruach is in Eretz Israel. So according to the Rambam, if the miruach was in Eretz Israel, do you chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot and export it or not? The Rabbi says, what the Mishnah says, that's patur, it's only if the miruach was bechutz la'aretz. אבל אם מרחן בארץ ישראל והתחייבו בתרומות ומעשרות, לא נפטרו מפני שיצאו חוץ לארץ. If the miruach was in Eretz Israel, the Rabbi says, and now it's already chayav בתרומות ומעשרות, as we explained that the miruach is the time that now it's tevel, it's parts that you have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, and you, if you eat from it, it's tevel. לא נפטרו מפני שיצאו חוץ לארץ. The Rabbi said, what? You want to tell me that you did the miruach in Eretz Israel, now it's chayav Terumot and Ma'aserot, it's tevel, but you put it on the plane and a Jew ate it in England. Now it's already went back and it's not tevel anymore. How can it be? If the miruach was in Eretz Israel, so there it becomes, it's tevel, and you have to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. What the Mishnah, the Rambam said that's patur when the miruach was bechutz la'aretz. Okay, because as we said, the produce doesn't become tevel until you have the miruach. So if the miruach wasn't here, was in chutz la'aretz, okay, so then it's patur with Terumot and Ma'aserot. But if the miruach was in Eretz Israel, even if it was exported, it's still chayav. And the Mishneh Lamelech, similar opinion. פירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו לחול וכולי, ומחלוקת זהו דווקא כשהחיוב היה בחול. כגון שגלגל העיסה ומריח הקריא בחול, בזהו תפטר רבי עקיבא, משום דאז נתפטר קביעות למעשר. The מחלוקת is only when the חיוב was in חוץ לארץ, כגון שגלגל העיסה, what I told you that making the dough, the halacha calls it גלגל העיסה, rolling the dough, או מריח הקריא, for Terumot and Ma'aserot, that only that Rabbi Akiva patar, משום דאז נתפטר קביעות למעשר, where the קביעות למעשר, where the miruach was. אבל אם גלגל העיסה ומריח הקריא בארץ ישראל, בזה פשיטא דאליבא דרבי אליעזר, אף שיצאו חוץ לארץ, חייבים בחלה ומעשר מן התורה. והחיוב שנתחייבו בהיותם בארץ לא פקע מנהים. The Mishneh Lamelech says, no, if the miruach was בחוץ לארץ, if the miruach was in Eretz Israel, חייב מהתורה. The Ravid says it's maybe chayav only mid'rabanan. Let's leave the Ravid. The Mishneh Lamelech says, according to the Rambam, chayav me'atorah. Zeu. You didn't understand the Rambam. You thought it's patur. You weren't medayek. So we have Radbaz and Mishneh Lamelech and the Mabit and others says, according to the Rambam, im nitmareach be'eretz Yisrael, chayav mideoraita. That's the first opinion. Second opinion, the Bach says, no. The Bach says, it's patur even if the kviut למעשר was in Eretz Yisrael. Let's see. The Bach in יורד שין למד א', ומה שכתב ואם נקבעו למעשר וכולי, נראה ברישא ביצאו מארץ ישראל לחוץ לארץ, סביר עלי להרמב"ם שאין לחלק בין נקבעו למעשר בארץ ישראל בין לא נקבעו, לעולם פטורים. No, he says the Rambam thinks that doesn't matter where the קביעות למעשר, where the מירוח was, it's always פטור. Why? מדרשה דקרא, שנאמר, אני מביא אתכם שמה, שמה אתם חייבים בחוץ לארץ פטורים. There's a גזירת הכתוב, maybe we don't even understand why, that if you are in חוץ לארץ, your body, you are standing now in חוץ לארץ, and you're eating produce that came from Eretz Israel, the קביעות למעשר was in Eretz Israel, doesn't matter, you're פטור from Terumot and Ma'aserot. That's a bach. And the מנחת חינוך says the same. אלא ודאי נראה דעת הרמב"ם, דפירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו בכל עניין פטורים, it's always פטור. ואל יפלא בעיניך, כיוון שנתחייבו הפירות שנגמרו בארץ ישראל, איך ייפטרו אחר כך? You know, you won't say, well, how can it be? Once the פירות, the fruit are נתחייבו, meaning the חייב and תרומות ומעשרות that were finished in ארץ ישראל, how would they become פטור afterwards? Which is exactly the question that the Rabbi in Mishneh Lamelech said, זה לא קשה. חדה, אם הוא גזירת הכתוב, שמה אתה חייב. אם כך גזרתו, that's גזירת הכתוב, just like the bach. אבל באמת מצינו כיוצא, but then he brings other places that you can learn that it becomes something חייב, and then it goes back to the פטור, and it's not so clear what he learns from. I don't want to get into his exact ראיות. But the Bach and Minchat Chinuch says no patur. A third opinion, which is in the middle, is about the Maharsham. The Maharsham was asked about an etrog that was exported to Chutz Laaretz without a certificate of Afrashat Terumot and Ma'aserot. So he says, can we mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot? Of course, if you have one etrog, you cannot mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot from it because Terumot and Ma'aserot you have to cut more than 1%. And put it aside and give it to a Kohen, or put it aside and throw it in the garbage. But if you have one etrog, you can't separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, it becomes pasul. So what to do? So the Maharsham talks, and one of the things he said, he gives an opinion which is in the middle. דווקא היכן דנתמרח בארץ ישראל, הדעת שיהיה בארץ ישראל. וזה אף שיצאו אחר כך לחוץ לארץ חייבים. Only when the miruach was in Eretz Israel, and the thinking of the person was that the produce would stay in Eretz Israel. Then, if afterwards it was exported, chayav, because at the beginning the thinking of them was it would be in Eretz Israel. אבל אם מתחילה נתמרחו הדאטה להוציאם לחוץ לארץ, if from the beginning the farmer grew it in order to export it, and when he put it in the boxes, the citrus fruit, the lemons, the oranges, he put in the boxes to export to the States or to Europe. So it was a data and the thinking of exporting it to חוץ לארץ. יש לומר דלכולי עלמא פטורים. So let's just summarize till now. The Rambam says that פירות exported produce פטור מתרומות ומעשרות. We saw three opinions in the Mefarshei Rambam. First opinion, Rabbi in Mishneh Lamelech said that the Rambam was patur only when the miruach was in Chutz Laaretz. But if the miruach was in Eretz Israel, chayav. So according to them, you chayav me'atorah today when you export. The Bach and Minchat Chinuch said no, then gzerat hakatuv, it's always patur. And according to their opinion, Bach and Minchat Chinuch, it's patur even today, exported produce. The Maharsham said that if the miruach was for Chutz Laaretz, so it's patur. And I think usually in most farmers, when they grow, they know already, when they pick, they know that this produce goes to Chutz Laaretz. Meaning it's not that they, I don't know, pick all the carrots and then decide, okay, some will go to Israel, some will export it. Most of them, when they pick, they know this goes to Chutz Laaretz. So according to the Maharsham, in today's produce, practically you would be patur mi-afrashat Terumot and Ma'aserot. These are the three opinions. In the Achronim of our days, let's see, Rav Kook says in Mishpat Kohen, כידוע, מה שיוצא לחוץ לארץ, יש מקום להקל בעיקרי חיוב תרומות ומעשרות שלו. He said it's a long question there, and he brings all kinds of tzdadim, maybe lehakel in the question, and he says another reason why to be mekel is that it's exported. The Gmar Melacha was to export. כי יש לומר, דבהווה גמר מלאכתו על דעת חו"ל. When the Gmar Melacha was to export, גם בנגמר מלאכתו בארץ, גם כן פטור. Even if the Gmar Melacha was in Eretz Yisrael, you're פטור, and this is the opinion of the Maharsham. Now, he doesn't paskins this opinion, but he brings it as a sniff leakel, as another reason why to make it in a specific question. It's not that he said, you're patur, but it's an opinion that you can rely on it as well. The Chazon Ish was the one that said, guys, all the mekelim, you're talking nonsense. The Chazon Ish says, אם יצאו מהארץ לאחר גמר מלאכה, אף בחו"ל ממש חייבים. וכמו שכתב המשנה למלך, פרק א' מהתורה. וברש מבוד, לאחר גמר מלאכה, אין תקנה להוציאן מידי חיוב תרומות ומעשרות, ומה יוציאם לחו"ל? ואף הגומר בארץ להעלותן לחו"ל, לא מקרה חסר גמר מלאכה. בקיצור, the Chazon Ish is like למשנה למלך, says it's חייב מהתורה. That's in Dmai Hey. Afterwards, in פרק ט"ו, he says, I heard there are some people that are making. ושמעתי מצדדים למפטר משום פירות שיצאו לחוץ לארץ פטורים. I heard. What do you mean you heard? The Chazon Ish. Not heard. The Bach writes it, the Minchat Chinuch writes it, the Maharsham writes it. It's not, that some rabbi, said it. But the Chazon Ish, as many times, what he thinks, that's the din. That's what I think, that's what I learned. If there are other opinions, okay, but I don't think they are valid even opinions. And as he said, וזה אינו כלום. This is nothing. שהרי אנו נוהגים יותר בפירות חוץ לארץ שנכנסו לארץ אחר גמר מלאכה. When we talk about fruits of חוץ לארץ that came to Eretz Israel, nobody is מפריש תרומות ומעשרות, and he's right. והרי אנו מכריעים בזה שלא נאמר דין פירות חוץ שנכנסו לארץ, אלא בנתמרח בארץ, והוא הדין איפכה. So the same that you do חוץ לארץ to Eretz Israel, the same exactly when you export. והלא הדבר פשוט בפי תלת החמורי העולם, it's פשוט by three חמורי עולם, three big rabbis, the Raven, the Kesefishne and others. ויש בודים, וואו, בודים is making, making ההלכה. ויש בודים שהממרח על מנת להוציא לחוץ לארץ פטור. Who's that? That's המהרשם. והתחייב לפי זה שהמגלגל להוציא לחו"ל פטור. והגלגול בחוץ לארץ, על מנת להכניס לארץ חייב, וכל זה תורה חדשה. ומהרשם, this is תורה חדשה, this is a new Torah, he made up הלכות. ופטור חוץ לארץ, שאמרו חכמים, היינו משום דמעשה החיוב הנעשה בחו"ל, אינה מחייבת, לא מרוח ולא גלגול. What Chazal said, if the גלגול, the מרוח, was in חוץ לארץ, it's not because you eat it בחוץ לארץ, but because that's the מעשה החיוב. Now it becomes חייב בהפרשת תרומות ומעשרות. etc. So that's the Chazon Ish. So the Chazon Ish, according to the people that go according to the Chazon Ish, you have to mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot and export. There's no question about it. Rav Shaul Israeli wrote a long article. דין תרומות ומעשרות בפירות ייצור. למעשה, ורואה אני נכון להוסיף, וגם לדעת הרמב"ם, שהיוצאים לחוץ לארץ כשאין עליהם תורת גמר מלאכה פטורים לעשות, ומכל מקום נקטין למעשה להפריש לחוש לדעת הרייבד. Meaning, למעשה, והרב שאול ישראלי, according to the Rabbi, we have to מפריש תרומות ומעשרות. But, we can be a bit maker. What? מכל מקום, אין צורך להפריד בזמן ההפרשה בין הפריש שמכוונים לשימוש בארץ לבין הפריש שמיועד לחו"ל. If you have a big factory, a big farmer, so you don't have to do two different הפרשות on the produce that is going to חוץ לארץ and the produce that in Eretz Israel. You could have said, okay, it's two different obligations, so for each you have to separate separately. So the Rav Shaul says, no, you can separate it together. כי הרי אין הדיון אליהם, הגמר מלאכה שלהם נחשב כגמר מלאכה המכיל על פרי תורת תבל. טוב, let's skip this. So, okay, so Rav Shaul Israeli says, you're חייב בתרומות ומעשרות, למעשה, maybe a ספק, לחוש, but you can be a bit makel that you can separate them together. The last source that was asked, Aminchat Yitzchak, was asked, he was in England, I think, and he asked, נשאלתי הלכה למעשה בפירות, תפוזים, oranges שמביאים כאן מארץ ישראל. הלכה למעשה, we see in England oranges from ארץ ישראל. אם מחויבים להפריש מהם תרומות ומעשרות, מחשש שמא לא נפרש מהם תרומות ומעשרות. וכי היום הזה נודע שהכל לקוח מישראל, ובעוונותינו הרבים יש הרבה חשודים שלא יפריש תרומות ומעשרות. Now we add something else. We see oranges from ארץ ישראל. Do we have to separate תרומות ומעשרות? Now he says, just a minute. Maybe it came from Arabs in Eretz Israel. If it came from Israeli Arabs, you're patur mit Terumot Ma'aserot. So Mincha says, no, we know today that the farmers are only Jews. And here there's something I said, just a minute. Maybe the farmer did separate Terumot Ma'aserot. How do you know if he separated or not? Meaning, maybe you have farmers that did separate Terumot Ma'aserot. Maybe not, but maybe yes. Is this a safek, another safek that can help us to be making? Meaning, there's one halachic debate, machloket hilchatit. Does this produce, one needs to separate what masot or not? That's one question. But there's another question, maybe the farmer, tachles, practically, he separated what masot. But he says, no, בעוונותינו הרבים יש הרבה חשודים שלא הפרישו תרומות ומעשרות. Most of the people did not separate תרומות ומעשרות. טוב, what's our time? We have to, okay. ולהלכה קיים עליהם בזה כריש לקיש. בזמן הזה אפילו מקום שהחזיקו עלי בבל ואפילו בעזרת תרומות ומעשרות אינו רק מדבריהם. First of all, תרומות ומעשרות nowadays it's מדרבנן, not מדאורייתא. Why? משום דלא אחים ביאת כולכם. In order to have Terumot Ma'aserot מהתורה, all of the Jews have to come together. Bi'at kulchem, coming together. But even in Beit Sheni, according to some opinions, and Kal Vachomer today, because we didn't all come together, and because most of the Jews are not here, so it's Chav Ma'aserot L'Derabanan, in brackets, maybe in a few years, that most of the Jews in the world would live in Eretz Israel. Today, I think they say about 40-45% of the Jews in the world live in Eretz Israel. If the demography will keep on like it happened the last few years, that we have less and less Jews in Chutz La'aretz because of assimilation and other things, and more Jews in Israel making Aliyah and living here. So in a few years, probably we'll get to a situation that more than 50% of the Jews in the world live in Eretz Israel. So maybe Terumot Ma'aserot will be deoraita. It's maybe because how do you define a Jew? Some people say today you ask Jews, they say that we have about, I don't know, I think 15 million Jews, but some of these Jews are not halachic Jews because they say they're Jews, but their parents are their father's Jewish, but not their mother. And maybe we have all kinds of Jews that we don't know about, that, their grandmother, I don't know, was baptized 50 years ago, but they're still halachic Jews and all the anusim. Begitzu, that's a whole different lecture about how do you count and what will happen if and according to what statistics do you go. But today, for sure, it's Terumot Ma'aserot miderabanan. So the Minchat Yitzchak said, okay, ובנוגע לנידוננו, יש כמה צדדים להקל, you can be a bit מקל. דהנה איתה במתניתן אליבא דרבי עקיבא, ונפסק להלכה ברמב"ם ושולחן ערוך, לפירות ארץ ישראל שיצאו חוצה לארץ, פטורים מתרומות ומעשרות. והיה לפני בירושלים, ודכתיב אשר אני מביא אתכם שם אתם חייבים, ובחוץ לארץ פטורים אין שם. So according to the Mishnah, רבי עקיבא, לרמב"ם ושולחן ערוך תדפיסו, פטור, exported. אולם המשנה למלך שם כתב, דין נמרח בארץ ישראל, רבי עקיבא מודד לחייו, וכן כתב בהגות תפיל הצדיק, ודברים ובברים בהשגת הרייבד, ורבי עקיבא סובר להזנין מטר קביעות המעשרות. וכן מבואר בחינוך, שכתב בזה הלשון, וכן נוהג האיסור בכל מקום, כלומר שאסור לאכול הטבע של פירות היוצא בכל מקום עד כאן שלום. So according to the Mishneh Lamelech, as we said, you're chayav if the miruach was in Eretz Yisrael. אכן, המנחת חינוך השיג על המשנה למלך, וכן הבח וכולי. Let's keep on. טוב, ו' is another ספק, לא ראו פני הבית. Let's skip it because today it's not there. ח' is another, maybe it's the Rabbanan because it's פטור לקוח. I don't want to get into it. And Tet, he brings the Marsham, that if you do miruach in order to export, so it's patur. So, he brings it to the end. ואם כן, מכל הניתם ובצירוף דיש ממונים מהבתי דינים בארץ ישראל להשגיח על הפרשת תרומות ומעשרות, לא אך יותר מספק תבל, דדין מעשרינו, היה מקום להקל בפירות האילנות שהובאו מחוץ לארץ. So because of these reasons, and that I heard that in Eretz Israel, there are people in charge, means the mashkichim, that do separate תרומות ומעשרות, so it's a ספק תבל, it's a ספק. Until I saw the Chazon Ish. אכן בא לידי ספר חזון איש, עד מים מעשרות, וראיתי שדחה בשתי ידיים, two hands, he threw out the סברה, אם ממרח על מנת להוציא לחוץ לארץ פטור, וכתב על זה שהוא תורה חדשה, וכולי. And י"א דברים האלה צריכים ביאור, why not? I'm here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm here where it says, כן? מכל מקום here, מכל מקום הרי החזון איש ז"ל שדה בנגה, he threw fire in it, he burned it. גם איתם אין לנו אלא מה שנאמר בגמרא הפוסקים, וכתב דאף אם יש ספק, דילמה של נוכרים, ודילמה כבר עשרינו ישראל, לא חשוב ספק ספקה. He said you can't say it's ספק ספקה. What ספק ספקה? Maybe it came from non-Jews in ארץ ישראל, it's Israeli produce, but maybe from non-Jews which is פטור, ודילמה כבר עשרינו ישראל, maybe a Jew separate תרומות מעשרות. It's not a ספק ספקה. The ספק עשרינו לא אוהב ספקה, זה כבר גזרו עליו חכמים שלא תספרו על זה ספק ספקה. So you can't מצרף it to a ספק ספקה. ובושים אנו לומר, we're sad to say, המעשרים מיעוט על ידי דיין, most of the people are not מפריש תרומות ומעשרות, it's sad to say, from exported produce. ועוד יש לדון בזה משום דבר שיש לו מתירין, ומכל שכן כי היום הזה דעה במדינת ישראל, ומיעוט הדמיעוט הנוכרים, the statistics today is about 6% of the agricultural territory in Eretz Israel is owned by non-Jews, about 6%, and a regular year, Shemitah is more, but a regular year, about 5-6% of the produce is gone from non-Jews. ואף יש נאמר דיל מעשרינו, ויותר כי היום דהימנו משגיחים על זה כנ"ל, מכל מקום מידי ספקה לא יצא, ומהוודאי מהנכון להפריש תרומות מעשרות בלא ברכה. So the Menchat Yitzchak, even though it's a safek, a few sfekot, maybe it's from non-Jews, they said, most of the people are not Jews. And maybe they mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot, the Jews, but we said most of the Jews don't mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot. And that's, but Terumot and Ma'aserot is the Rabbanan. And because we have Machloket B'dat HaRambam, we have the Bach and Mנחat Chinuch that say that you're patur from mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot. So it's a safek. You should mafresh, but without a bracha, because still it's a safek. That's what the Mנחat Yitzchak says. And the Rabbanut HaRashit LiYisrael, they say a similar opinion. נכון להיום, רוב התוצרת הנשלחת לחוץ לארץ, בין בפירות, בין בירקות, אינם מופרש תרומות מעשרות. Practically, we are telling you, most of the produce exported, the farmers don't take תרומות מעשרות. Why not? הדבר נובע מחוסר הסכמת בתי האריזה להפריש תרומות ומעשרות מהתוצרת הנשלחת לחו"ל, שרובה לדבריהם מגיעה לצרכנים שאינם יהודים. The בית האריזה says, okay, I bought from the farmers 100 apples. Now you, 100 tons. Now you ask me to mafresh תרומות ומעשרות, which means more than 1% I have to put aside and to throw. 1% is money, is a lot of money. Why do we do it? For the goyim? We send it to Russia, we send it to England. Who buys it there? These oranges. Oh, the goyim. We need to lose 1% because of the goyim? The non-Jews that are consuming it? We don't want to mafresh. Why should we mafresh? And I'm adding something that's not written there. They come and tell the rabbis, excuse me, there's no hechsher on this. There's no hechsher. I send it. Nobody asked me for a kashrut certificate for what I'm exporting. If I'm selling it to Eretz Israel here, so every shop they need to that kashrut. So okay, I'll mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot. Maybe even in Eretz Israel, if I wouldn't have to, I don't know if I would have done it, but I have to because I sell to kosher places. But when I sell to Chutz La'aretz, A, most of the people are non-Jews, and B, even if the Jews buying it, why should I lose more than 1% to be an extra tzaddik? Nobody asked me for a kashrut certificate. If the consumers, want the mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot, there's such a tzaddikim, so they should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. That's what the Batei Arizah, the packaging houses, that's what they say, and the farmers. אף על פי שישנם דעות שונות בפוסקים לגבי החיוב להפריש תרומות ומעשרות בפירות וירקות הנשלחים מחו"ל, even though there are different opinions that poskim about the obligation or the level of obligation to mafresh Terumot ומעשרות, which is what we saw in this lecture, המנהג המקובל הוא כי רוב פוסקים להפריש תרומות ומעשרות מתוצרת זו. So the רבנות הראשית בישראל says you should separate Terumot ומעשרות, and we're telling you the farmers, the packaging houses, the people in the middle of the chain, they don't separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. That's the situation. Now you buy, so you should know this is the situation. I know the Rabbi of Sad, Rav Ari said, they export carrots to Russia and to Canada, from what I remember. So we asked him, what do you do? He said, I told the kibbutz that they should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from carrots, exported carrots. And he told me the kibbutz, at the beginning, they didn't like it. What, Rabbi, what should we do? It's a lot of money. It's 1%. What, the goyim in Russia? What they care? There's no kashrut. But he said, no. There's I think the Gemara, chazaka al chaver, שלא מוציא דבר שאינו מתוקן תחת ידו. There's a chazaka that a chaver, not in Amaz, but a chaver is someone that wants to be on a higher religious level, to be more makpid, that he doesn't sell or doesn't give a produce which is not, that he didn't take Terumot and Ma'aserot from. Meaning if you buy from such a person, you get from such a person produce, you know that he separates Terumot and Ma'aserot from it. And if you get from somebody else, even somebody religious, but, somebody else can say, it's a regular person, okay, I'm not eating it, I'm giving it a present, so he should mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot from it. But a chaver, no. A chaver, whatever he gives or sells, he separates Terumot and Ma'aserot. In brackets, I always think of it as when you give a present, dishes. People give you all kinds of dishes, so a chaver would tovel the dishes and then give it to them, of course, if it's open. And a non-chaver said, okay, I didn't tovel these dishes, you have to do it. Even though once you tovel it, it's wet, and then you open the box, etc. But I always get upset when I get a present and I have to go to the mikveh and tovel it. If you give me a present, give me a present, do everything for me. And not only that, I have to ask, if it's the box is closed, okay. But if not, say, wait, did you take it to the mikveh? You didn't take it to the mikveh. So if you give it. So when we give presents, I tell my wife, let's take it to the mikveh before. I tell the people it's tavul. My wife doesn't like it because it makes it dirty, etc. But that's a similar thing as a chaver. So back to us. So the Rabbi of Sad said, yes, what we export, the carrots, we separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from. So we see that there are some people that do separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, but most of the people don't. I spoke to Rav Yehuda Amichai in Mechon Torah Ve'aretz. We thought, what about the kosher stores in especially in the States and other places? If you have a kosher store and they get produce from Eretz Israel, and this is a question I don't know the answer. Does the mashgiach separate Terumot and Ma'aserot? Maybe you know to tell me. Does the mashgiach separate Terumot and Ma'aserot from these fruits and vegetables? Is it even, I hope they know about it, about the issue, And either they separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, the Mashgiach, the Sham, or they tell people, listen, these are fruits and vegetables from Eretz Israel, so you should separate or ask your local rabbi. And the worst option would be that the kosher stores would not want to buy produce from Eretz Israel because of this issue, which for me, I can't even think that a rabbi, that a community, a rabbi, a mashgiach will say, because I'm lazy, because of these issues, I would prefer not buying from Eretz Israel, not buying from Jews and fulfilling a mitzvah of kanom miyad amitecha, buying from a Jew, which is a mitzvah, and supporting farmers in Eretz Israel, etc. But maybe that's the situation. If somebody here knows, I'll be happy to know, because I asked a few people and they didn't get an answer. What we told the OU and the RCA, you can ask for, if you have importers, I mean people that export from Israel to Chutz La'aretz, you can ask them to bring a Heksher certificate from Israel for Orla, which is a different story, and for Terumot and Ma'aserot. And then the farmers, the packaging houses, they will have to mafresh Terumot and Ma'aserot because they'll have to get a certificate. So that was what's Rav Yehuda Amichai in our institute, Mechon Torah Ve'aretz, but I don't think it got anywhere. I don't think anybody says such a thing today, but it's something that is it could be done. Just before we finish, what kinds of fruits and vegetables are exported? So when we talk about a fruit, so we have 6 main fruit that are exported, which are all of the citruses: oranges, lemons, mandarin, clementine, and pomelo. A parsimon, mango, tamarim, dates, and rimonim, pomegranates. Those are the main fruit that are exported. And vegetables, we have a few peppers, especially organic peppers that are exported, carrots, tomatoes, petrozilia, parsley, and shamir dill. This is a list I have of the main fruits and vegetables that are exported to the States and to other countries. You know, it changes a lot, but these are the main ones. So one should be aware of. What we didn't talk about today is how to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. Meaning, once you decide, that's what our psak, lechatchila, that you should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot, and you have to know how to do it. So we have the. Just a minute. So we have our magnets of separating Terumot and Ma'aserot. This one in Hebrew, this one in English. We have as well on our website, and the OU and the RCA and OK, they all have on their websites how to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. And this is the psak, is not only our psak here, but the main psak in most of the big kosher organizations in Chutz La'aretz that tell their people they should buy. They should, if they buy Israeli produce, they should separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. And they should know how to separate Terumot and Ma'aserot. And it's a good, a rabbi in a community, a strong community, the rabbi should talk about it and explain. As I said, what I did in Poland, which was a very weak community, and we didn't have a lot of produce from Eretz Israel, I didn't think that's the first thing I should talk about. And also because I was afraid that people won't buy from Eretz Israel. So I decided not to talk about, but when people asked me, so I did. I think in the last year I did give a shiur about it. And again, Shemitah is a different issue, if they buy Shemitah produce or not. Okay, questions? Larry asked, just a second. A U.S. rabbi said he tries to avoid produce from Israel. I wondered if he supports BDS. No, so Larry, maybe this is the reason. If it's this year, Shemitah, so it can be, that's a different issue. Because if you don't rely on Heter Mechira, which many people in the States don't, Rav Soloveitch said that we in the States, we shouldn't rely on Heter Mechira. They in Israel, okay, they need it, maybe, but we shouldn't rely on it. So I know the OU doesn't rely on heter mechira, and almost all the exported fruits and vegetables are heter mechira. So if on Shemitah Rabbi says he doesn't want to buy from Eretz Yisrael, so I don't agree, but I can understand him. Because if he doesn't rely on heter mechira, so, according to most opinion, you shouldn't buy Shemitah produce. So I don't think it's the BDS. I think it's because of this opinion. Yes, sorry, who started a question?
Just so Rav Kook, I heard one of the reasons why Rav Kook was for the Heter Mechira is so Israeli farmers and agriculture can export Kutzlar to make a living. So but you're saying that the Rabbanim, like Rav Soloveitchik anyway, said not to rely on it. So is that correct? Rav Kook was one of the reasons he was for the Heter Mechira, so Israeli agriculture continue living.
Correct, because if you do Otzar Beidin, which is the other option, so exporting, you're not supposed, it's a discussion, but according to many opinions, you're not supposed to export Shemitah produce with Kedusha. So if it's Otzar Beidin, if you're going oranges for export, so, so you can't export. So, that's your business. So the Rav Kook said, do Heter Mechira, but that was for exporting for the law, for the goyim, for everyone. Not specifically for Jews, but yes, that was, you're right, that was one of the reasons. For etrogim, I'll just say for etrogim, people are making to export Shemitah or Otzar Beit in etrogim. I think we discussed it, one of the shiurim, because what's the option for having Israeli etrogim? Heter mechira, no, if you don't rely, so only Otzar Beit. So Otzar Beit, most of the rabbis do allow exporting. Yes, Harold.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that the Bach was very clear. The Minchat Chinuch was very clear, and all of the opinions of the various Achronim notwithstanding, why can't we rely on those opinions? They seem very, very clear.
First of all, you can rely. If I didn't say it clearly, I know I didn't do mamash research, but I saw most rabbis, they say, listen, lechatchila, you should go according to most opinions, or to many opinions. Lechatchila, you should be even choshesh for the minor opinions, let's say. Lechatchila, if you can. And if you can do it, so do it without a bracha. It's difficult, you can't do it, you're in a community, or you mamash think the Bach and Minchat Chinuch are right. Okay? The Chazon Ish for sure didn't think it, that's for sure. And other poskim, they were said, okay, we have a lot of sfekot, the Rabbanan, okay, so let's do it without a bracha. But you're right, if that's your halachic opinion, I definitely think you can rely on it, definitely. Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next time, maybe we'll do something else, not mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz, to do something else. Thank you.